Hey, my name is RockChickGodess. Not gonna give out real names on here. For the past maybe 6 hours, I've been sitting here watching the American show Intervention. It's woken me up a lot to my life at this precise moment. Um, okay, I may look like a normal person, but I know inside that I'm not because I'm addicted to marijuana. That I am going to admit right now. The only hard problem is I can't admit it to my family. I can't admit it to anyone else bar confiding in my two close friends, and even them trying to help me, I'm just pushing them away and pushing them away. I have been smoking marijuana since I was about 13. I gave up for 2 years, moved away from where I was heavily using it. Now I've moved back. I've been using for about nearly 2 years now. I'm back up to 2 years now. To make money for the stuff, I was a prostitute, but right now I'm living off the government, so I get basically money for free. And when that's meant to go towards looking for a job, or paying for school books, or paying to get into a course to get a job, it doesn't. It goes to this, straight down to this. Now, I don't know, I haven't had the most perfect life. My dad left me when I was 10. He was a really important person in my life. I think if I can look back on it, I spent most of my time with my father before he left my mother for a younger woman. But I think just growing up in the environment that I did, my dad was a user himself. He was also dealing the stuff. Um, it wasn't a happy childhood or anything like that. It looked happy on the outside, but on the inside, it wasn't, so good. Um, my mum and dad were always fighting. My mum was always drunk. Um, and it just didn't make the family situation any better. But day in, day out, we were, my brother and my sister and I were taken to people's houses that either smoked marijuana or at least dealt in it, where my mother would drink a lot and my father would smoke a lot. Um, then after my dad left, it was just me and my mum. My brother and sister were never home. When they were, it was always we were always fighting. It was, I don't know, it was never really happy at home ever since dad left. My brother was really distant. My sister would always hang out with friends, so she didn't have to be at home, and I was just by myself. I didn't grow up having friends or anything like that. I still don't today, really. Um, but yeah, basically grew up with no friends, so I had no one to confide in. I had no one to lean on. I didn't really have the childhood that I wanted. And every time I had sleepover birthday parties, or stuff like that after my dad left, or even during, you know while my dad was there, he always did night shift. He was always working night shift. But my mum, even when I had friends over, she'd still drink. um she wasn't, I don't know, I guess you could say she was an in closet alcoholic. It wasn't a pretty sight. Mum and I used to fight a lot. It included a lot of, you know, rebellion and rebelling against her. I used to punch her. I used to slap her. We used to get into all sorts of fights. Um, I have one scar left from that period of her life, and that's on the back of my right hand, from punching a glass window because she locked me out of the house. She was drunk, and we got into one of our typical arguments. And by this time, I had turned to drugs and alcohol, and I was 13. And a year before I turned 13, I just got raped. Um, and I just hit rock bottom, and that's when I thought life doesn't matter anymore. When someone who just violated you, you think, well, what's to live for now? You don't really see your father, and your mother and father are always arguing. Your mother's always drinking. and so my only friend was marijuana. So I do it day in, day out. I was dropping out of classes. I wouldn't go to school. I would rather be sitting around with older people, smoking weed, and just getting high and getting drunk at a young age. Then when I turned 17, I was dating a guy who I fell very much in love with, and I didn't use for 2 years. I think in that 2 years, I maybe smoked it once or twice, as if I can recall, but that's about it. Um, but it was fine for 2 years, and I moved back here, and I just didn't feel like I was a whole person and that my life didn't exist anymore because I'd lost that person. So I basically turned back to drugs and alcohol, um, thinking that maybe that was my scapegoat out of everything. I was going out every weekend, picking up different guys, doing the typical, what I thought was right, one night stand, and it got me a name, and because I only live in a very small town, so it got around, and I got a name for myself. So it made me go more towards drugs than alcohol, because I thought drugs would do me better than alcohol. Um, but it didn't. I am still sitting here today at the age of 21, smoking the stuff as I showed you before, and I still don't feel any better about myself. I mean, it's wake up every day hoping that either I've got money for the stuff or at least a little bit left, just to make me feel that, just a tiny little bit better about myself. But it doesn't, and I spend about $200 a week on the stuff, and normally I'm asking my boyfriend for money for the stuff, and every time I borrow money from him, it's money that I have to pay back, and then I haven't got any more money to buy more drugs, so I've got myself in a loop of asking him back for money, and it spirals out of it. I did recently give up binge drinking. It finally made me so sick to the stomach that I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't go out and have, 3 tequila shots, 8 beers, and be downing double rum and coke, and all night. I just couldn't do it anymore, and so I've basically stopped with the alcohol, stopped binge drinking, my problems away, and I just turned to drugs. And because I sit in the same house day in, day out, doing the same thing, and it's just not the life to lead. I've only had 2 jobs in 4 years, and the second job I don't admit that I liked doing, which was working in a brothel. And yeah, okay, you can call me a prostitute, a slut, a whore, and everything like that. Doesn't make me feel any better. It's what you do for money, and if you don't have it, and when you need it for weed, I was smoking like $20 a day, and then it moved up to 30. Now it's moved up to $50 worth of this stuff a day, and it's not healthy for anyone at all. I do have family here to help me, but I didn't just not close enough to my mum and sister to ask for help. And the person that I rely on the most isn't even in the country for the next 2 years, which is my brother. So basically, I feel like I've lost my best friend. So the best friend that took my place is Meryl. Took my best friend's place is Meryl, not Juana. So yeah, since my brother left to go overseas, I haven't been right since. So I've just hit it harder and harder. And all I seem to do is sit in a smoky haze every day, listening to the same music over and over and over again. It's getting so ridiculous now that I can't see a future for myself. I don't have any feelings anymore. I admit that I've cheated on my boyfriend over maybe 3-4 times, and I just don't feel bad about doing it anymore, and I know it's because of the drugs. The reason I'm putting this video out there is to say to all you young people out there, or maybe even adults that are thinking about trying any sort of drug, or alcohol for the